Welcome to Identity First podcast. And today I'm joined by Mr. Subodh Sankar, co founder of Atta Galatta, one of Bangalore's well known independent bookstores and literary community spaces. Thank you so much, Subodh, for joining us today. It is indeed a pleasure to have you. And to what better than to hear the story from the horse itself about Atta Galatta, a bookstore which has been, living Bangalore for quite some time. So we'll start with, our first question, Subodh. So you have been a serial entrepreneur and you have been handling different ventures. And I wanted to understand, could you please briefly take us through what through your journey and tell us your passion, tell us what keeps your passion alive, especially with a soulful project like Atta Galatta.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Kavita, for choosing to talk to me.
Pleasure.
And serial entrepreneur is a nice word, but I think I sometimes feel a little ambiguous about it, right? I think what life has given me is the chance to sort of try very, very different things so far. And, I've been fortunate that, I've actually been able to do it. So, serial entrepreneur is one way of looking at it. But the way I'd like to look at it, or the way I actually look at it, is that, I think the circumstances and what life has given me is a set of very, very different experiences. So my initial entrepreneurship was in the field of technology. And that happened in the late 90s, and it went on for a while. That's a part of life that's sort of long gone, long behind us. And I did have a couple of stints as an entrepreneur in the tech industry. One finished well, one finished okay, and one failed. But I think those are all parts of your life that you kind of go through. What has been really, really interesting about that part of the journey is, I had a chance to work alongside some phenomenal people, learn from some phenomenal people, and both the successes and the failures, frankly, have been sort of life-affirming, life-changing experiences, right? In terms of the people that you meet, the people that you work with, the people that you encounter, the sort of different things that you get your chance to dip your fingers into, and therefore get exposed to, learn from. All of that is, the technology world was, the first almost 20 years of our life. And then it reached a point where, frankly, my mind was just not completely into that world. I was looking for a change. Call it what you want. Call it, a loss of interest, sort of a turning point in one's life. For me, I think it was a combination of things, right? I had worked in the world of new technologies, emerging technologies for about 20 years. Life was going by,
Right.
That world kind of is an insular world where you essentially stay within the boundaries of what you do. And I think it was a combination of lack of interest or loss of interest, maybe a little bit of fatigue, maybe a desire to sort of completely pivot and do something different. But then the opportunity happened where, I had an opportunity to exit that world. And it was a good exit. I'd be always glad for the time that I spent in that world of technology. It's given us pretty much everything that we have so far. That was a very, very happy time of my life. But then when this opportunity arose to get out of it and try something completely different, frankly, we were when I say we, my wife Lakshmi and I were had a very quick discussion, and we're like, what, I think we're in the right stages in our life where we can go after something which is very, very different. And frankly, this was, Lakshmi's idea. She's we're all readers in the house. My wife, my daughter, and I, we all read. We've always been readers, and Lakshmi more so than all of us. And it had always been her dream to own a bookstore. She keeps saying, you know what, a bookstore is a perfect place where we can grow old together. And, it's might think of it as a romantic notion, but I think we were fortunate that, we were able to, at that point, say, yeah, why not? Let's go after it. And Lakshmi was like, you know what? You're not doing anything in the world of technology. You're not going to go back right now, are you? And I said, no, I'm not. She said, then let's go after this sort of dream of opening a bookstore. And that's how the idea sort of started. I think it was 14 years ago, 2012, when, a little earlier, we decided that let's go ahead and do the bookstore. We took a little bit of time to understand how something like this could be set up. And yeah, 14 years ago, we started Atta Galatta.
As how did you land up with the name Atta Galatta?
Oh, the name Atta Galatta. So we wanted, the idea was if you're going to start a bookstore, and we didn't want it, right? I mean, I think we didn't want it to be just another bookstore because that 14 years ago was when a lot of bookstores in Bangalore and in the rest of the country were shutting down because, there was this imminent threat in the industry. People were wondering what would happen. Books are getting delivered at home. Amazon and Flipkart deliver books at home. People are reading on their Kindles and their other devices. Reading as a habit is, stuff that, you normally hear about the pending demise of the world of books, which is, by the way, not going to happen. So one of the things thankfully, one of the things that we were, how do you make this bookstore a vibrant space? And so the idea was, let's not just be a place where we put books on a shelf and then wait for people to come and buy it. Right? It's a very, very passive, sort of old-fashioned way of starting a bookstore, or the old-fashioned way in which people looked at bookstores, which is there are books on a shelf and you wait for people to come. So we were very sure that we did not want this to be just another bookstore. We wanted it to be a space, if possible, and this was all our sort of dream at that time, right? This is what we were hoping we'd get to. We were hoping that it would be a place which becomes a sort of a space for literary and artistic interactions, where, we thought this could be a good place where people of a literary or an artistic bent of mind would come and hang out. And these were kind of the things that we were sort of debating, saying these are the things that a bookstore can be. And so when it came to the name, it's like, why not be a little playful and little bit irreverent with the name? So yeah, I mean, frankly, this was an effort where, we had some friends and people from the family and us, and we were sitting down and debating, what do we call it? And the word Atta Galatta came to mind because it's a combination of two Kannada words. Atta in Kannada is play, and Galatta is sort of loud fun. So we're like, a bookstore can also be a place of fun and games. So yeah, that kind of is how we landed at Atta Galatta.
Much contrary to a library or a bookstore, right? Where silence is considered to be something,
Correct. Why should a bookstore just be sort of, it's not a library. It certainly wasn't a library where you would disturb others. But, a bookstore can be a place where you come and have fun, right? It could be a place where, you think of it as entertainment rather than as, don't think of books. I think that's true, right? You have to look at books and reading as a form of entertainment, and a way in which you play and use your time. Rather than saying, it's a serious business, reading is serious business, only serious people ought to read, you only ought to read serious books. I think those are all just sort of old-fashioned and sort of dated ways in which one thinks about books and bookstores in general.
Absolutely. And that's like a paradigm shift you brought, right? If I may say so.
Because, at least in our own heads.
Yes, no, definitely. Because yes, a bookstore is always, if you walk into a bookstore, you're supposed to be behaving in a certain fashion. Like even if the kids, you have to say shh, and here you're completely, defined.
And that's what, and that's one of the few things we are very proud of, right? Is I think we've stayed consistent to the way we looked at what the space might be 14 years ago when we were dreaming about it. And we're very proud of the fact that we've been able to, be part of this journey where, Atta Galatta has turned into a space. It's a community space where people just come and hang out. People come and, participate in our events. People come and buy books. People come there just to drink a cup of coffee or sit down and do their homework or whatever it is, right? I think we're very, very proud of the fact that we've been part of this journey over the last 14 years, where some of what we thought a bookstore ought to be is exactly the way a lot of people think of bookstores.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so we're very, very happy that we've been part of that journey. Yeah. That's one thing we're very proud of.
In fact, I will not say part of the journey. In fact, even one of the pioneers, I will say, or somebody to start in a very different, format.
Those are all words that I'm uncomfortable with, Kavita. Those are words that I'm uncomfortable with, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we've been around for a while.
Yes.
We've been around for a while, and I think strong adjectives are some things that I'm uncomfortable with.
Sorry.
Because they're nothing unnecessary, right?
Yes. No, but I'm saying 14 years back, if we remember, there were not many bookstores who came with this kind of concept. That's why, as you mentioned in the introduction, that bookstores were closing, and that tend to take this kind of it must be a very gutsy, or I'd say a very strong, a brave step to go ahead and start a bookstore, right? When you said bookstores were closed. Yes. So yeah, how to find value there? It must have been quite a question, actually.
It was. I think that's one of the things that I've always enjoyed with my life is, and I've been fortunate to be part of is, I've been part of opportunities where you weren't necessarily, even in the tech world, right? Given the kind of work we were doing, we weren't necessarily solving problems that already existed, but you're trying to look at, interesting ways in which the world might evolve, and you look at ways in which you think you want to do something, and go ahead and do that. So I think I've been fortunate, and I think this was one more opportunity where we were fortunate, right? Where we picked not at there is a opportunity to sell books, rather than that, and then we build a bookstore. You've been fortunate to create something which is maybe not an existing problem or a requirement, but try and do something and hope that and this is something I learned from a very wise, very successful person who I've continued to look on as one of the most impactful people in my life, one of my former bosses, who said, what, that's the difference between, when you're in a football game, when you're watching a game of football and there's a bunch of school children, what happens is all the 20 kids on the field are running towards the ball and they're fighting to get their foot on the ball. Whereas when you're watching a well-oiled professional team or a national team playing the World Cup, there's someone who's running towards the goal, and all he's hoping for is someone kicks the ball to him and he's able to score a goal. If that ball doesn't come, he comes back, whatever, runs around a little bit and once again goes towards the goal and hopes someone kicks the ball to him. And I think life is like that, right? You keep running towards something that you think you're interested in, and you're waiting to see if that ball arrives at your foot and you're able to kick it forward, rather than keep running towards the ball where everybody else is. And I think that's something that I hold very, very dear, and try and see if, those are the things that interest me. Those are the things that I've been fortunate to be part of, and those are the things that kind of drives me.
Very, very well put, actually, and very true. One more question I may ask, like, for example, you said you were 20 years, and with emerging technology. And today, if we talk about, the world is only talking about emerging technology and AI. So somewhere, did you miss that you're not a part of it right now? I know you have moved. Yeah.
So, no. I think that's been the case throughout. I think that's only natural that the world talks about something which is new and exciting. When we started in the world of technology, everyone was talking about this magical thing called the internet.
Yes, right. Absolutely.
And I was part of that sort of I grew up in an era when, there was no internet, there was no computers. Uh, and there was no internet or no computers, but even by the time I'd finished my masters. So, I'm kind of dating myself, but I'd already finished my masters and there was nothing called the internet back then, right? This whole thing, the World Wide Web and all of that happened in the late 90s, by which time I'd already finished my formal education. I'd finished, a few years of working in the industry. And when the internet came, that's all everyone talked about, because it was this brand new, exciting thing. It democratized connectivity and made the world smaller, and everybody was talking about that. And yet, I was happy to be part of that first wave when this internet came into the world. Then the next thing everybody was excited about was mobile phones, right? That happened a few years later, and that's what everybody was talking about. And I was very excited that I was a part of that world right at the beginning. These are all technology domains that I've had the privilege of working on right in the beginning of those technologies. And then what's happening today is again very, very similar, because it seems like something that's going to transcend and democratize access to intelligence, right? First, it was access and making the world smaller and connecting to information sources across the world, which was the internet. The mobile phone made everything sort of untethered. You could just move around with that and stay connected with everyone. It untethered people. And now with what's happening in the world today and AI and things like that, I think it's untethering a different type of opportunity. And that's why people are talking about it. And this is only going to continue.
Yes.
There's no
It's like
limit
a
to human
pattern in the
innovation.
trend.
And I think there's no limit to human innovation. And we keep going to go in the cycles. And, there's no point in, either. This is something I chose to watch from the sidelines, and I'm very happy.
That's great. Because like what, right? Everybody right now is, we have music. But
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So great. Now coming to my next question, Subodh, is your passion fundamentally different when a business is culture rather than purely commercial?
I fundamentally have issues with the word passion and the way it is used in the context of one's journey, right? I woke up today morning and drank my coffee very, very passionately. If I didn't feel right about it, I would have just skipped having that coffee. I think passion is what drives one to do what they do and keep doing it, right? Passion is what keeps one doing what they do. You do what you do on good days because you're passionate about it and you feel vindicated that you're doing what you're doing. And you keep doing the same thing on your bad days because the passion to do well is something that drives you through it. If you weren't passionate, you wouldn't do what you do. And so I think that is true for everything that you do. So whether it's the world of technology or corporate or, the world of culture, that has nothing to do with how passionate you are about doing it, right?
Makes sense.
I don't see why immediately. And I get asked that a lot when people come and say, "Oh, you run this bookstore." They say, "Is it a passion project?" It most definitely is. But then so has everything else in my life been a passion project.
Right.
Correct? I think that is the sort of normal path of one's growth. Is when you see a bunch of children in school, and one of them is doing well in his studies, and then she's also doing well in her sports, and she's doing well with everything else in life because she plays music and she also does spelling bee and things like that. She's the most passionate kid in class, and her passion is to do well in multiple different ways.
Right.
I see no difference between that and me running my bookstore a certain way. It's all passion.
So on passion, okay. So it's like equal. I'll say equal.
I think it has to be, right?
Right.
You have to be passionate about everything that you do, right? People say all kinds of things, right? Just because, I think I think we sort of misuse the word passion to sort of kindly ask a person, hey, does this pay for your daily bread and butter?
Right.
And I think that's wrong.
Just
You might as
simplify.
well not, yeah, you might as well say, you know what, hey, I know you're doing this. Does that pay for your bread and butter? I think it's a far more direct and relevant way to ask this question than say, is this your passion project?
So it's the word passion is being glorified, if I may say.
No,
so.
I think the word passion is being blatantly misused.
Misused. Right. Right.
Right? It's become a euphemism rather than what it actually means. And if your question was in the world of culture, does me being in there pay for my bread and butter? It partially does. It might pay for a loaf of bread, but not necessarily Japanese shokupan. It'll pay for biryani.
Got the message right. Absolutely. Perfect. Now, very well said. And now moving to Subodh, the digital reading is often cited as the biggest threat to the physical books. And, from your vantage point, is digital reading replacing reading or is it simply changing how we consume information?
I don't think digital reading is in any ways impacted reading.
Okay.
It hasn't. Because I think the percentage of people that are using digital readers is very, very small. And this is not some new, modern, upcoming technology where this has been around for 10, 12 years.
Right.
And the number of people who read on digital readers exclusively is still in the small single-digit percentages. More so in India. In India, it's even lesser. But globally, I'd say the number of people who are reading exclusively on digital devices is less than 10%.
Is it? So when you say, sorry to interrupt you, when you say digital reading and when you're giving these numbers, are they specific to the books? Or, digital reading may comprise even a newspaper or, the regular readings that we do. So maybe there's a...
Only about books. I'm talking about books.
Right. Okay. Yes.
I'm talking about books. Now, I think digital consumption of news is a very, very different statistic, right? Because I think one has to break it down. One has to break down reading into multiple sort of
segments,
levels and buckets, right? I think you're right. I mean, if you look at the digital consumption of news, I think maybe that is much higher and very, very different from the numbers that I talk about, which is I'm talking about books. Because I think, but it's not just news and books, right? There is a variety in between. You have news, you have opinions, you have, I would say, critical writing pieces. You have long form articles. You have, in the books, you have short stories and, you have full length novels and you have nonfiction. And so you break it down into all of that.
Right.
I think it might be consumed in different. I don't have the statistics, nor have I cared to, have I cared to look at the statistics for the buckets which don't concern me.
Absolutely.
But if you look at books, which is consumption of short stories, fiction, non-fiction, what is otherwise published as books, consumption on digital media is very, very small.
Okay, so. After Peggy, I think people still are very comfortable when you read, normal hard.
Absolutely, I think so. I think so, even for non-fiction.
Yes, because I think personally, if I have to read a news piece, I can just quickly glance upon and read it online. But when I want to read something as at leisure, and
because I think again, news. When you look at news, I think news has gone from, you can look at news in multiple different ways, right?
Right.
You can look at news as a bunch of headlines.
Yes.
You can look at news as a bunch of flash messages,
bite. So yes,
bites or things like that. But when you're talking of books, I think it's very difficult to read just the back of the book
Yes.
and
Yes.
say, I finished what is in it, right?
Absolutely. I think you won't even get that kind of feel, or I would say that comfort, or the satisfaction when you read a physical book, and that continues even with kids today. So I think it will always be there because
I think so. I think so because I think books can't be reduced to either a headline or a bite.
yes, absolutely.
Whereas news, I think you can remove that element and say, okay, there's a headline, there's a bite, there's an editorial, there is an opinion
Yes.
piece, there is a long form article, all related to the same topic. And I think they all give you different levels of information, different levels of detail, and different outcomes.
Right.
Whereas with books, it's difficult to break it down to that.
Yes, and the romance of having a book and sitting with it, that takes you to another
Well,
world.
that's I think the softer element of it, right? And in fact, yeah, that's the softer element of it.
Absolutely. So that's great to know that the numbers are still really high and they're not anyway going to be diminishing in future as well. Now, have we lost the habit of deep reading, or we just adapt to different ways of storytelling today?
It's an interesting thing, and I've thought about it much. It's an interesting question, and I've thought about it a lot. In fact, even yesterday there was this discussion where the speaker was saying, I think a lot of people today are looking at books also in a slightly transactional manner, in the sense that they're saying, you know what, I am buying a book and I'm reading the book. What are the 5 things that I get out of it? And how do those 5 things help me either gain or change or improve my current circumstance?
Right.
So people have started, and that's not how books were looked at earlier, right? But now there is still reading, but there is a certain percentage of people who look at that reading aspect also as a transaction. There's a transactional outcome-based group of readers.
Especially for self-help.
And I think that is one of the reasons why things like self-help books and business books and, there are certain genres which sell really well, because they instantly give a reader those transactional outcomes that they are looking for. In the world of fiction, it's very difficult to quantify the outcomes into a series of measurable or a transactional value of what you do. And I think that is why, the percentage of people reading fiction is coming down, while the percentage of people reading non-fiction and, things like that are going up. I think deep reading is a nice little romantic word you used. But I wonder why people never ask that question of films. How many people deep watch movies? Because it's a visual, it's content which is consumed visually. It's a content which is consumed oral. People don't talk about that, right? Whereas it's easy to think of. Again, it's you look at books as you holding books to a higher standard than you do your movies and your music, and I've always wondered why. Right? When that happens, when you watch a movie, and it could be even any movie, right? Do you deep watch it? Do you sit down and try and understand what the filmmaker is trying to say or trying to tell you? Or do you only go back with what you've taken from it? Movie was good, songs are nice, plot was nice, but there is a craft, there is a There is a way in which the director is trying to stitch together a narrative and a storyline. And, we don't do that. So deep reading and things like that are, I think, outcomes of how we've always held books to a higher standard because we've believed books were more literary than
Yes.
movies or music. How many people have sat down? How many people have sat down, listened to a beautiful piece of music, and wondered, why the lyric was written a certain way, or why the orchestration was done a certain way, and why did the composer choose to bring in a violin harmony at this time when bring in a certain you don't right. And I think part of, I'm sorry I'm rambling, but I think
Absolutely.
why should be books be held to a higher standard, and why only books?
Right.
And then why do we bemoan the lack of deep reading and things like that?
Very true. But as you rightly said, yeah, I think right from beginning, books have always been at the highest standard, right? So probably that's why, yes, yes, yes,
I think those are kind of dated ways in which we look at everything.
yes.
I think those are dated ways in which we look at everything, right?
Yes. Somebody used to
And
read was considered to be like, oh, wow, he's a scholar or he's somebody different,
correct.
the intellectual, right? And somebody who was just watching movies was a movie buff. So, there were very different
And
words
also, I think
altogether.
that's because we made books a little. Okay, I'm just rambling again because I think movies basically
Right.
democratized audiences, right? Movies, I think, especially in a country like India, movies were the first cinema halls were the first place where audiences got democratized. In the darkness of the cinema hall, you didn't care about who sat next to you, right? And you all watched the same film. Back when there was all kinds of restrictions brought on by, everything that our country is famous for. I think cinema halls basically democratized audiences.
Absolutely.
And therefore we've always looked therefore at cinema as a far more democratized medium which was accessible to everyone. We didn't look at books like that, but that's happening to books, right? Everyone reads books. So I think
Yes.
it's a state of mind, and I'm unwilling to buy into some of these ways of looking at things.
No, but very well. I'm glad I asked you this question because it opened this kind of thought also, right? Like we always come with like we never democratize books, and as you rightly said, the books anybody who used to read books was considered on a very higher level and higher pedestal as compared to somebody who's just
Someone who just watched movies, yeah.
So yeah, I'm so glad that I asked you this question. We went to this kind of discussion. Otherwise, it was in one corner of the world. So you really opened another.
I'm sorry I ramble at times, but
No, absolutely not. This is what the idea is, right? To get the thought behind it. And I'm so glad that now we are looking at democratizing books as well. And one more.
So who cares if you deep read it, you light read it,
Yes.
you've read it.
Yes. Yes. That's beauty, actually. Absolutely. So we absolutely, and you're bringing everybody on the same level. Actually,
I might,
yeah, beautifully answered. Thank you. So now coming to our next question, since the digital era became mainstream, how have you noticed a significant shift in the genres, formats, or the attention spans of your patrons? So you brought this in the earlier question as well, in terms of the self-help books. Yes, but I would love to elaborate.
And I think you picked upon an important. One of the things that you picked upon is something that I think is very, very real, right? Which is attention span. I think of all the things that we talked about, books demand the longest attention span.
Yes.
Right? You'd end up reading a book even if you're a fast reader. It will demand your attention for a few days, whereas a film would demand your attention for a few hours, a piece of music for a few minutes. And in today's digital world, your shorts and your videos for a few seconds. So I think if you go back to India's other religion, which is cricket, Test cricket demanded your attention for 5 days, and then now you have your T20, which demands your attention for 3.5 hours. I think increasingly we find that things that demand a shorter attention span are the biggest base. but it doesn't necessarily exclude their interest in things that demand a higher attention. Right? It's like basically saying that people who watch Instagram shorts and are able to, and now apparently these young children, like my daughter who's 26, says that they watch their Instagram reels and their shorts at double speed because their attention span is no longer 30 seconds, but their attention span is only 15 seconds. Right? And so they watch it in double speed. So what demands 30 seconds of attention is not becoming dated, right? If I watch a reel in its entirety for 30 seconds, I'm considered old.
Right.
Because, the young kids are watching it in double speed. And God knows in the future, they might want to watch it at triple speed. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But attention spans are decreasing because I think everyone wants to pack in as much as they can given the time that they have.
Yes.
Right? I think that's the way I'd like to look at it. I have the opportunity to pack in my day with multiple things, and therefore I'd like to spend as little time on each of those so I'd have a full experience. I suppose that's one way of looking at it. So attention span becomes, I think, has become an important factor to consider. And I think artists are responding. I read somewhere that nowadays when people make feature films, they tend to, and this is again, I don't know, it's an article that I read, it's a long article that I read, which talks about how when today filmmakers are making feature films, which are 2.5, 3 hours in length, they tend to reinforce plot points at more and more,
Intervals.
far more frequently than they used to in the past.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Apparently, because, the people who are watching films are also suffering from the same shorter attention span, right? And before they drift, you come back and reinforce the plot and say what you would have said once in a film, you say it now multiple times. So I think what will happen is artists will find ways in which they modify or adjust their craft in order to cater to what their audiences would like.
Right.
So it's a great question because I think one of the things that I think today even writers are starting to do is they're starting to now cater to people's shorter attention spans. So you find books are being written in a fashion that caters to those things.
Right.
And I'm not saying those are the only books that are being written, but just like how, today you have a filmmaker and a filmmaker would make a short film and a short filmmaker is now making a ad film and an ad filmmaker is now making an Instagram reel and an Instagram. It's all over the plate, right? I think that's the beauty of a creator. The creator has enough creativity, flexibility, intelligence, and understanding of their audience to see how their art gets delivered to the intended audience. So, things like flash fiction have come up. Flash fiction is a new genre which caters to people with really short attention spans.
And what exactly can you elaborate a bit on that? Sorry.
Flash fiction is basically when you take like a really simple plot and it's a really quick conclusion and finish that story in a matter of like 2-3 pages.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Right. Okay.
Right.
That's interesting.
That does not mean that the literary novel is dead.
Right.
Self-help books do not mean that the big narrative non-fiction about earth-changing matter is dead.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that there are different audiences now,
Right.
and the audience of one is not. You can't say that the audience of the great literary novel, the greatest minds. You never know. Shashi Tharoor might be, watching his 30-second reads as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the person you write off as, this is this whatever young kid who only watches Instagram reels might actually go home and read this big literary novel because she has that part to her personality as well. It's not one replacing the other, but I think there are ways in which every craftsman, every artist reinforces their craft with,
with the growing demand.
With the growing demand of the audiences. But I think short attention span is something that has really sort of accelerated this change.
Right. So, if I may ask, so as you mentioned, coming back to my question, you said the flash fiction, there is it's coming has come up. So, any if you have to look at it in terms of the genre, do you see any increase or?
Tell you what, I at least given my knowledge and to see what works in my bookstore, right?
Yes.
And we're also an Indian language bookstore, so we sell a lot of Indian writing. So we know what Indian audiences are consuming, what Indian writers are writing. Crime fiction, for example, is a genre which is doing really, really well, because I think people like the pace and the sort of the quick movement through the narrative. Crime fiction, romance, contrary to all beliefs, is alive, well, and kicking, and will never go out of style, right? Everyone loves a good romance, right? In press. And if you take nonfiction and things like history,
right?
I think Indian history written by Indian writers from an Indian perspective, which, especially if it is centered around your own geography and where you live.
Right.
So if you look at it, the history of South India is not really well written about historically, right? There's been a shortage of scholars writing about the history of the various South Indian things. And now there's been a series of writers who focused on that, and those books are doing exceedingly well because they're written about a geography which you're familiar with. No, which you're familiar with, but you haven't had enough literature written about it. They're written by Indians. They're written by people who look like you, who are like you, and it's told from a perspective that you feel part of contextually. Those are doing really, really well. Post-pandemic, children's books have gone through a major shift. Again, Indian writing for children is only now starting to go on its sort of upward path. Even 10 years ago when we started, there weren't so many Indian writers and Indian stories being written for children. It was all these imported books that we were consuming, right? The same thing that I consumed as a child 50 years ago is what children today are consuming. Just give me a second.
Sure.
And so children's books. And post-pandemic, I think parents have realized that, parents are realizing, and parents are buying more books for their children. Parents are, as a parent of a young child yourself, that. I think the pandemic and that whatever year of madness when children were forced to spend all their time on digital devices, very forcefully shifted parents to look at books and outdoor play and things like that as must-dos for their children, right? So obviously the artists, the writers, the illustrators are all responding to that. And we're seeing a whole bunch of new ways in which interesting books are being produced for children. So it's go back to even the previous question, right? And to look at this. I think these guys are artists, right? They're inherently exceedingly talented, right? Whether it's the writer or an illustrator or filmmaker. I mean, these guys are beyond. I mean, I'm constantly, one of the things that I've been constantly amazed over the last 14 years is just that there seems to be absolutely no limit to human creativity. And when you think you've seen it all, there comes a new person who comes and looks at it from a completely different perspective view and surprises you all over again. And these people are just around you everywhere, right? They're everywhere. And so I think that power of human creativity and the way these artists are responding is just fantastic.
Wonderful. That's really nice. And we also see a surge in the Indian writers, right? If I may say so.
I'm specifically talking about that because that's what we specialize in.
Yes. Wonderful. So that's good to know. Yes. I think that's a very good news, actually. Yes. Yes. We'll be importing books and reading for international writers. Now we also got the flavor of the own
Right?
products.
And stories which are told, which come from the same cultural ethos as you're familiar with,
Yes.
always hit harder.
True.
They hit closer, they hit harder.